There's a moment many people secretly dream about after a toxic relationship. The moment the narcissist finally realizes they lost you. Realizes they lost someone who gave them more than most people ever did. Someone who gave them warmth, care, attention, maybe even real love. But that realization rarely hits a narcissist right away. Not tomorrow. Not in 2 weeks. It usually comes later. In a quiet moment. A moment where they suddenly notice something's missing. Maybe it's the evenings you spent together that they now find themselves missing. Maybe it's your warm laugh. Maybe it's the way you took care of them, made them feel safe, tried over and over to save the relationship. And then something starts that most people don't expect. At some point, the narcissist notices, there was someone in my life who was actually valuable. And that person is gone now. The real question is, what's actually happening inside a narcissist in that moment? That's exactly what we're going to unpack in this video. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, or you're in the process of leaving one, this video will help you understand what's really going on, so you stop taking their behavior so personally and start reclaiming your power. Stay with me until the end, because we're going to look very closely at what happens internally when a narcissist realizes they've lost someone who once really mattered to them. If psychological insights like this help you, subscribe, hit like, and tell me in the comments if you've ever had a narcissist suddenly reappear after a breakup. If you've finally left the relationship with your toxic partner, if you've begun to find your way back into your own life, then you've already done something many people struggle with for a very long time. Leaving a toxic relationship is not a simple step. It's usually a long process. A process that can feel a bit like withdrawal. Withdrawal from a person you were emotionally bonded to, even though you knew the relationship was hurting you. Many survivors describe this time as a valley of tears. You keep trying to make sense of what happened. You ask yourself the same questions over and over. How did I stay so long? Why did I put up with so much? And still, at some point, something new begins. You start to reorganize your life. Maybe you pick up old hobbies again. Maybe you reach out to friends you lost touch with during the relationship. Step by step, you find your way back to yourself. Many people also go no contact in this phase. They block the toxic ex. Delete the number. Avoid any form of contact. Not out of revenge. Not to punish them. But because they've realized, I don't want this person in my life anymore. You begin to see clearly which people you want around you in the future, and which you're better off without. And sometimes, a surprising realization comes with that. As painful as it was, this experience taught you something important. You've learned to take your own boundaries seriously. You've learned that your dignity and self-respect are not negotiable. And at some point, you may feel very clearly, this is not going to happen to me a second time. If you've started learning about narcissism after the breakup, you probably noticed something fascinating. The stories of other survivors sound shockingly similar. You'll see comments everywhere like, you just described my relationship exactly. That's my story word for word, and that's no coincidence. Narcissists often behave according to very similar patterns. Even though, during the relationship, they keep telling you they're unique, special, unlike anyone else, in reality, their relationships tend to follow a very clear script. At the beginning, idealization. You're put on a pedestal. Everything feels intense and special. Then slowly, devaluation creeps in. Criticism. Confusion. Emotional games. And eventually, the moment comes when either you leave, or you get replaced. For a long time, many people believe their story is unique. But the more you read and hear, the clearer it becomes. These dynamics repeat over and over. And that's why the next step is also surprisingly predictable. So many narcissists reach a point where they start thinking about you again. People often believe narcissists simply forget their exes, throw them away and never think of them again. But that's not how it works. In reality, many narcissists have something like an inner collection. A mental gallery of people who once played a role in their life. People who gave them something. Attention. Admiration. Affection. Maybe even status. I sometimes describe it like this: for a narcissist, people are often like trophies. Just like a collector takes out their pieces from time to time and looks at them, a narcissist revisits old relationships in their mind. Not out of real longing. Not out of love. But out of the feeling that these people once belonged to their world and gave them something. Then memories pop up. Oh right, I went to Rhodes with her. We always had such nice evenings. She always took such good care of me. And as they walk through this internal gallery, you show up again too. Maybe they remember how much you supported them. How you were there. How much energy you poured into the relationship. But in a narcissist's world, that memory rarely comes with genuine gratitude. For them, you're more like a reminder. There was someone who gave me something valuable. And that's often when they start thinking about reaching out again. Especially if things in their current life aren't going so well. And that's when something happens that many people never expect. After months, sometimes after a year or more, the narcissist suddenly reappears. Maybe very casually. With a short message. A WhatsApp that looks harmless. Hey, how are you? Just wanted to check in. I was thinking of you and felt like reaching out. On the surface, it seems innocent. As if someone just wants to know how you're doing. But if you understand narcissistic dynamics, you know, there's usually more behind it. A narcissist rarely reaches out of pure concern. In their world, it's usually a test. They want to see if they still have access to you. If you still respond. If you're still emotionally available. So they send the message. They see it's delivered. 2 gray ticks. Then they see you've read it. The ticks turn blue. And now something happens that they did not expect. Because in their mind, this usually goes very differently. They imagine you answering right away. Surprised. Maybe touched. Maybe even relieved that they reached out. But this time, something else happens. You don't answer. And this is where a narcissist enters territory they don't understand. You see the message. You read it. And you don't respond. You don't explain. You don't ask questions. You don't pick up the thread. Maybe you delete it. Maybe you just put your phone down and go back to your life. Because now, for you, it's clear. The moment you start texting back, the old dynamic can start again. The old game of closeness and distance. Hope and disappointment. And you've decided, you're not going back there. For the narcissist, though, this is completely unfamiliar. They wait a few minutes. An hour. A whole day. And suddenly they notice. Things are not working the way they used to. And in that moment, something begins to shift. Because now, their usual game doesn't work. In the past, they knew exactly how to pull you back in. A few words. A little sign of life. A harmless question. And the energy between you would move again. They knew you were still emotionally reachable. But this time, it's different. You don't respond. And that changes your value in their eyes. In a narcissist's world, people often become especially interesting when they're hard to reach. When they don't open up immediately. When they can't be pulled back so easily. It almost becomes a new hunt. You're no longer the person who always picked up. You're the one who doesn't crack. the challenge that slips out of their control. And suddenly, in their memory, you're upgraded again. Now you're the one they always loved. The only one who really understood them. The person with whom everything could have been different. But this new appreciation doesn't come from real insight. It comes from something else entirely, from the feeling of having lost control. The moment the narcissist realizes they truly can't reach you anymore, something hits them that they're very bad at handling. They feel that something is no longer under their control. In the past, they could pull you back with a few words. A little nostalgia. Some memories of the good times, but now, it doesn't work. And that hits them in one of their most sensitive spots. It's not just that you don't answer. It's that they feel they have no influence over you anymore. They can't steer you. Can't reach you. Can't pull you back into their game. That feeling is deeply uncomfortable for a narcissist. And dealing with uncomfortable feelings is not their strength. So many of them react in predictable ways. Some go into self-pity, telling themselves they've been unfairly treated once again. Others react with anger, or start devaluing you. Suddenly, you're no longer the special person from before, but someone who was never really worth it anyway. And while they're trying to get rid of these feelings, something else often starts. They move on to the next person. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. The narcissist suddenly reappears after months or years. And at first, it almost looks like they've finally realized what they lost. But in reality, it's rarely about genuine insight or real remorse. What the narcissist usually misses in those moments is not you as a person. They miss what you gave them. The attention. The admiration. The emotional energy you invested. The moment you grow and stop responding to the old game, something fundamental shifts. You're no longer part of that dynamic. And that is your real strength. Because while the narcissist goes from one relationship to the next, repeating the same patterns, you have learned something that can change the rest of your life. You've learned to take your own boundaries seriously. And sometimes, that's exactly where a whole new chapter begins. If you've lived through something like this, you're not alone. And if this video helped you, subscribe, like, share it with someone who needs it, and tell me in the comments. Have you ever had a narcissist suddenly reappear after a long time of silence? Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.